Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this. If you're hungry for hard-hitting insights like this deep dive, you absolutely have to visit mindexpansiondaily.com right now. Seriously, check it out. We're diving deep today into the NCAA Transfer Portal. It's having this massive and, yeah, often debated impact on American college football. And while you're over at the site, please hit that like and subscribe button. Join our growing community as we tackle these big sports debates. And look, if this content truly fires you up, if you find it valuable, consider showing your support by buying us a coffee. The link is always conveniently in the description. Today, our mission is really to cut through the noise, challenge the hype around the transfer portal. We want to see if it's truly like unraveling the fabric of college football or if it's actually empowering players in ways we haven't seen before. So what's your take? Is it chaos or is it a catalyst? Leave a comment with your thoughts and hey, tell us where you're listening from. We're really passionate about expanding Mind Expansion Daily worldwide. And honestly, your engagement helps us get there. For so many of us, college football, it's always been about those multi-year legends, right? Players who commit, they grow with a program, become like synonymous with their school. But then 2018 happened and the NCAA Transfer Portal just appeared, fundamentally shifting that whole landscape. And now, with the ability to transfer and get immediate eligibility, wow, we've seen this incredible 418% surge in FDS players hitting the portal just since 2020. That's not just a trend. I mean, that feels more like a revolution.
It really is. A seismic shift, I think you called it. It's far more than just, a minor tweak to the rules. And it's definitely ignited a really heated debate. You hear it everywhere in college football circles. And when we connect this to the bigger picture, you really have to ask, is this tool, this thing, meant for player agency? Is it actually eroding the foundations? Team cohesion, school spirit, those deep traditions that define the game.
Right.
Or is it just a necessary evolution, maybe even overdue for modern athletes? Our mission today is exactly that, to figure out if the portal is a genuine game changer, opening up new opportunities, or if it's just, well, a chaos maker, disrupting everything. We'll focus specifically on its impact right here within the United States, drawing on recent games, expert opinions, fan reactions, right up to, September 2nd, 2025.
That's a great way to frame it because the player experience, that's really at the heart of this whole thing. Before 2021, I remember, if you wanted to transfer, you were almost always sitting out a year. That basically hit pause on your career. But now, immediate eligibility, it's a completely new ballgame. This freedom, it was designed, at least in theory, to empower athletes. So what does this new landscape really mean for the players? How's it shaping their journeys?
Well, this raises that critical question about player agency, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
often gets a bit lost in the noise about team stability and all that. The portal, introduced back on October 15, 2018, it wasn't just about letting players move. It was about giving them a real choice. They can now actively look for new programs. Maybe it's a better academic fit, maybe a better athletic opportunity like, more playing time, or sometimes it's personal reasons, right? Being closer to home if something's going on. And the numbers, they really back this up. This new freedom is being used. The Athletic reported that, get this, 60.3% of the top recruits from the 2021 class, they've transferred at least once.
Wow, 60%. That's truly eye-opening.
Isn't it? Almost two-thirds of the most sought-after young players decided their first choice wasn't their final one. So it suggests maybe it's not just about being unhappy. It's more of a dynamic search for the right environment.
Yeah, 60%.
Yeah.
It almost makes you think the initial recruiting process, as intense as it is, maybe it doesn't always get it right for every single player straight out of high school. The portal then becomes a kind of a corrective mechanism, lets players recalibrate. And we've definitely seen some amazing stories come out of that.
Exactly. And when you look at those success stories, the benefits for the players can be undeniable. I mean, take Caleb Williams. His move to USC in 2022. That was huge. It powered Lincoln Riley's immediate turnaround with the Trojans, and, well, Williams wins the Heisman. He found his perfect fit, a system he excelled in right away.
Right, the Heisman winner. Can't argue with that success.
Or think about a more recent example. Carson Beck's high-profile transfer. Georgia to Miami in 2025. That move didn't just give Beck a fresh start. It immediately sparked that massive 20-point upset over Clemson. Completely turned Miami's season around. I remember seeing a post on X, must have had like 15,000 likes, just buzzing. Beck's move turned Miami's season around. So these examples, they really show the immediate impact, the benefits for players who use the portal right and find that program where they can just thrive. It's more than just a New Jersey sometimes. It's often about unlocking their full potential.
Those are really powerful examples. Individual empowerment, players finding their spot. Sounds great on paper. A win-win, you might think. But
As I think about that freedom, my mind immediately jumps to the other side, the collective. What does all this movement mean for the team itself, for that chemistry that culture coaches are always talking about? Just feels like constant rebuilding.
And that's precisely where the paradox of the portal really hits you. When we connect this to the bigger picture, yeah, the ease of transfer can dramatically disrupt team cohesion. Building a consistent culture gets really hard. Let's look at North Carolina, for example. In 2025 alone, they saw an astonishing 39 transfers. And those transfers added, wait for it, 308 career starts to their roster in one season.
308 starts. That's almost hard to wrap your head around. How does a coaching staff even begin to build an identity with that much turnover?
It's a massive amount of experience cycling in and out. And a 2024 PMC study actually highlighted this. It found that teams relying heavily on transfers often really struggle, to maintain a stable organizational culture. They often end up prioritizing short-term wins over that deeper, long-term development that builds lasting programs.
Right, chasing the immediate fix instead of the long game.
It puts coaches in an incredibly tough spot. Mark Stoops at Kentucky, he openly noted that 20% of his 2024 squad were new transfers. Think about integrating all those new personalities, new styles, new expectations, all under pressure, quickly. Coaches now face what people are calling a double recruitment burden.
Double recruitment?
Yeah, they're not just scouting high school kids anymore. They're also actively recruiting talent from the portal to plug immediate gaps. And we see this trend clearly, right? 65% of Power 4 programs are prioritizing experienced transfers for those quick fixes, rather than maybe waiting for younger guys to develop. And that's stress. It's not just on the coaches, it filters down. I remember seeing an X thread, 2024, maybe 12,000 likes, fans just venting, Teams rebuild every season, where's the loyalty?
That loyalty piece is huge for fans.
It points to a real weakening of those locker room bonds. And the data backs it up. 30% of coaches are reporting lower team morale. And you can guess what that does. It impacts performance, especially in those big, high-stakes games. It's tough to play as a unit when you barely know the guy next to you.
That loss of loyalty, the hit on morale, it really gets to the soul of college football, doesn't it? I mean, the sport thrives on those deep traditions, the rivalries, the four-year legends who become part of school history, that unwavering spirit like Ohio State's Scarlet and Gray or Alabama's Crimson Tide. Is the portal fundamentally changing what it even means to be a college football fan? Is it kind of eroding the essence of the game?
This brings us right to that crucial point about identity, both for the teams and for the fans. A 2024 ESPN poll. It shows 60% of fans feel the portal dilutes these traditions they cherish. And when you see star players moving, like Nico Iamaleava reportedly leaving Tennessee in 2025 for a huge $4 million NIL deal, well, it highlights this really profound transactional shift. Feels less like commitment, more like opportunity.
A business decision almost.
It's exactly. Less about the program, maybe more about the payday or a faster track to the league. There was an X post, got like 18,000 likes, that really lamented this. No more four-year legends portals are killing rivalries. And you can see why fans feel that way. Imagine your star quarterback, the one you've cheered since he was a freshman, suddenly lining up for your biggest rival next year. That emotional connection, that history, it starts to feel a bit shaky.
Yeah, I can totally see that. It's not just about the scoreboard. It's about the shared journey, the story. So how are programs dealing with this? Are some trying to, hold the line? Or is everyone just jumping into the chaos?
We're definitely seeing different approaches, different strategies emerge. You've got programs like Clemson still really emphasizing recruiting and developing high school talent. Their philosophy seems to be that building from the ground up creates stronger, more lasting cultures. They believe those bonds forged over years make for a more resilient team.
The traditional model, basically.
Kind of. But then on the other end, you have teams like Texas Tech. They seem to be diving headfirst into the portal. Reports say they spent something like $10 million on transfers in 2025 alone.
$10 million. Wow.
So yeah, it creates this stark contrast in how rosters are built, almost a philosophical divide. And this impact, it even reaches things like bowl games. Players are increasingly opting out, right, to enter the portals or get ready for the NFL draft. That weakened maybe 20% of bowl rosters in 2024.
Which definitely takes some of the shine off those games.
Absolutely. It erodes that communal joy, the significance. A 2024 Sports Illustrated survey found 40% of fans feel less engaged with the postseason because of it.
So it was a real double-edged sword then.
Yeah.
Player empowerment, new strategies for teams, but also this potential erosion of what makes college football unique. But you mentioned something earlier about parity. Is there maybe a silver lining here for the sport overall?
Yes, absolutely. And this is where it gets more complex, more nuanced. While some traditions might be shifting, the portal can, paradoxically, boost competitive balance.
Yeah.
Smaller programs, the ones often overlooked by the five-star recruits, they've actually benefited quite a bit. Think back to Appalachian State's incredible 2022 upset over Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
Huge. And it was led by a transfer quarterback, Chase Bryce. That created a massive tradition-building moment for that school, for their fans. Moments that maybe wouldn't happen without the portal bringing in talent. And look at the non-Power 5 conferences. The AAC, for example, they actually saw more transfers in than out in 2024. This influx of talent, it's had a real effect. We've seen 15% more mid-major teams cracking the AP Top 25 since 2020. So, yeah, while old traditions might be challenged, maybe new stories, new rivalries, unexpected contenders, that adds a different kind of excitement.
That's a really important counterpoint. New traditions forming, wider competition. Okay, but for every Caleb Williams success story or every App State upset, there has to be a darker side, right? A riskier side to this free agency. What about the players who jump in, hoping for something better, but, well, don't land on their feet?
Yeah, and this is the flip side. We have to talk about the risks. The numbers here are genuinely sobering. Of the, 17,000 athletes who entered the portal in 2023, 10%, that's 1,700 young athletes, found no new team.
1,500 just ended their careers.
In many cases, yes, their college football journey just stopped. It's a brutal statistic. Highlights the gamble. And even for those who do transfer, it's not always a step up. A concerning 60% actually end up moving to lower-tier programs. So they're often not finding that better fit they hoped for. Sometimes it's a diminished opportunity. And then you hear those heartbreaking stories. False promises, like that UNLV quarterback, the unfulfilled $100,000 NIL deal. These players are vulnerable, navigating this complex system, often without much guidance. I saw an X post, 2024, maybe 10,000 likes, just warning people, portal dreams can crash hard. It's a reminder that for every big success, there are many, many unfulfilled dreams.
That's tough. A huge emotional toll, not just for them, but their families, too.
Yeah.
It sounds like this high-stakes game isn't just about individual risks. It could also be making existing inequalities in the sport even worse.
Precisely. That's another major consequence. It significantly exacerbates inequality. The elite programs, the ones with huge resources, big brands, they can leverage massive NIL deals to pull top stars from other teams. It creates this increasingly uneven playing field, almost like a talent drain from the middle to the top. Consider this, 444 Power 5 players transferred out last year compared to 316 coming in.
So a net loss for that group overall.
A net outflow of talent from many programs, consolidating at the very top. And that creates a huge competitive disadvantage for smaller schools. 30% of Group of 5 coaches are citing the portal and NIL as a major hurdle. So while the portal offers freedom, in practice, it can really widen that gap between the haves and have-nots. Makes it harder for mid-tier teams to compete year after year.
So, okay, coaches, fans, analysts, everyone seems to have these incredibly strong, often conflicting opinions. It's such a complex issue. Let's try and unpack some of those perspectives more. How are the key figures in the game actually grappling with this? It can't be easy.
No, it's not. And this leads us to that critical question of finding some kind of sustainable balance. Coaches, they're definitely split. Their views often reflect, their own program's situation or philosophy. Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, he famously called it a necessary evil, but really emphasized the evil part. That it desperately needs guardrails to prevent total chaos.
Guardrails. Yeah, you hear that a lot.
He's voicing that common feeling. Player freedom is important, sure, but you need some structure to keep team building somewhat intact. Nick Saban, retired now from Alabama, he was an even more vocal critic, especially about the impact on loyalty. He even advocated for player contracts, more like the pros, to bring some stability.
It's interesting, contracts.
But then conversely, you've got coaches like Curt Cignetti at Indiana. He strategically used transfers, leveraged them effectively, guided his team to an impressive 11-win season in 2024. So his success shows that, yeah, it's challenging, but winning in this new world is possible. That 2024 PMC study I mentioned, it really captured this tension. 70% of FBS coaches prioritize transfers for immediate impact. But that same study showed their deep worry about long-term culture erosion. They're caught in that bind. Immediate needs versus long-term identity.
That makes total sense. Adapt, but acknowledge the challenges. What about the fans? Their passion drives so much of this sport. How are they reacting?
Fan sentiment is just as complex. It reflects that same tension. Player freedom versus team identity. A 2024 NCAA survey found, maybe surprisingly, that 80% of fans actually supported player mobility. That's a good number, endorsing player rights. But, and this is crucial, that same 80% also strongly urged for anti-tampering rules. They want some order, some fairness in how it all happens. There's an X thread in 2024. Huge engagement, 20,000 likes just debating this. Portal gives players freedom, but teams lose their soul. That really captures the core dilemma, doesn't it? Individual power versus collective identity.
It absolutely does. Lose your soul. That's powerful stuff. I'm curious, from your own experiences just being out there, what have you seen on the ground?
Well, during my own explorations in college towns across the U.S., I've seen this debate play out firsthand, very organically. I was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, found myself in a sports bar during the 2025 Ohio State-Notre Dame playoff game. The place was electric, right? And fans were passionately arguing about a transfer player's game-winning touchdown. It showed how these individual moves directly hit those huge moments.
Right there in the heat of the game.
Exactly. And a local coach I chatted with there, he put it simply, but I thought poignantly. He said, "Portals help players chase dreams, but my team struggles with new faces yearly."
Mm-hmm.
Just distilled that constant tightrope walk for coaches. And then at University of Michigan seminar I went to, 60% of the students there favored player choice. That really highlighted a generational shift, I think, among younger fans. Even saw an ex-post from a fan in Athens, Georgia, capturing the duality. Portals shake up rosters, but stars shine brighter. These real-world moments, they just emphasize the intensity, the nuance, and the very human side of this transformation.
Those stories really paint a vivid picture, the human element behind all the stats and debates. So let's try and bring it all together. What does this mean for the bigger picture, the future of college football? Is this just the professionalization we kind of always knew was coming, or something else?
I think if we connect it to that broader landscape, yeah, it absolutely signals a major step towards professionalization. No doubt about it. With 65% of players actively chasing NIL deals now, that traditional amateur model, it's fading fast. It's becoming a central driver of movement. Looking ahead, regulation seems key. It really does. Some studies suggest a more structured framework could potentially save U.S. programs maybe $500 million by 2030 and stabilize maybe 30% of teams. That would offer some much-needed predictability in what's currently a very fluid system.
Predictability would certainly be welcome for coaches and ADs.
And it's not just rules. Education matters too. Programs that actively educate players on the risk of transferring, maybe through seminars, things like that. They've shown they can reduce transfer regrets by about 15%. Just giving players better information helps them make more informed choices, maybe mitigate some of those downsides we talked about.
That's a fascinating mix of potential solutions and ongoing, challenges. It really feels like the sport is at a crossroads.
It absolutely is. But the impact, it goes beyond the field, beyond the finances, this constant player movement. It is affecting fan engagement. 40% of Americans say they're less invested in teams because of the turnover.
Right.
That could have real long-term effects on popularity, on the culture around the sport. Yet, paradoxically, like we said, it also fosters parity. 15% more mid-major upsets since 2020. It's this complexity that makes it so compelling, right? This evolving landscape, both significant challenges and maybe surprising benefits. It's a real tug-of-war, old versus new, tradition versus transformation, individual versus a team. So ultimately, yeah, the NCAA Transfer Portal is undeniably a double-edged sword, no question. It empowers maybe 60% of players to find better fits, gives them agency they never had. That's huge. But it undeniably disrupts team cohesion. 30% of coaches report lower morale, that constant struggle to build culture. We've seen incredible successes, right? Caleb Williams finding his spot, winning the Heisman. But we also see that harsh reality for the 10% of transfers who just don't land anywhere. Careers ended. Traditions definitely suffer.
40% of fans feel less connected to the history. But parity grows. More Cinderellas emerge. That 2025 X post, the one with 18,000 likes, it nailed it. Portal's a double-edged sword, freedom for players, chaos for teams. The crucial challenge now, for coaches, ADs, the NCAA, is finding that delicate balance. How do you maximize player mobility while still preserving program stability and those traditions that really define the soul of college football? That's the million-dollar question.
Indeed it is. A fascinating, ongoing experiment playing out right in front of us. The future is definitely being reshaped. So we turn it to you, our listeners. What do you think is the most critical change needed here to manage the portal's impact? Is it more regulation, more education for the players? Or is it something else entirely? Maybe a fundamental shift in how we even view college sports. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and please tell us where you're listening from. We're really passionate about expanding Mind Expansion Daily worldwide, and hearing from you helps us do that. And hey, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. If you got real value from this deep dive today, maybe consider buying us a coffee. The link's right there in the description. Your support genuinely helps us keep bringing you these kinds of in-depth explorations. Join us next time. We're going to dive into another huge piece of this puzzle, the full impact of NIL deals. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.